He's unframeable. That's the great point. I mean, you cannot frame someone who didn't want to be framed at all. Tony Conrad is an unclassifiable artist. He was a groundbreaking filmmaker and musician. He was a great pedagogue. Beyond this, he was a committed cultural activist.
One of the very first concerts that I produced at the Kitchen was with Tony Conrad to play the world premiere of what has become 10 Years on the Infinite Plane.
It's an expanded cinema performance composed of 4 different projections of black and white stripes that slowly move to the center and then form a square.
Alongside those projections, we have 3 instruments. So there's the long string drone, which is an instrument that Tony Conrad invented. We have a bass guitar and we have a violin, and they basically are responding to the soundtrack of Tony Conrad playing. And when he was alive, he would have played the violin himself.
The whole produces an experience based on length that engages with our feeling of memory and engages with the idea of what does it mean to see a shape changing and becoming literally alive. 10 Years Alive on an Infinite Plane embodies the contradictory history of the museum already in its title. Conserving doesn't mean looking back ever. It always means looking ahead. And keeping a work alive in the way that 10 Years Alive on Infinite Plane requires is the most challenging but also exciting experience for a conservator and a curator in a museum.
The work really is held by a network of people. But of course, when a work comes into a museum collection, we're thinking far in the future where that network won't be there to support a work. How do we plan to think about a longer legacy for a work like this?
What we want to do is to create the conditions for new possibilities to emerge that are still within the spirit of Tony Conrad and within the spirit of his work. And the transmitters are a key part of that process, as well as the new generation of performers.
Tony is no longer there, but he was aware of the fact that he wouldn't have been around. So he made his best to create a condition for the work to be transmitted. He didn't give any specific instruction because this was actually his attitude. He didn't want to teach vertically. He didn't want to be authoritarian. The beauty of 10 Years Alive on an Infinite Plane is against structures, against forms of power, and it's wonderful to celebrate Tony Conrad in that way.
The instrument I'll be performing on is known as the long string drone, and it consists of 1.50 meters, 5 feet stretch of aluminium, about 2 centimeters thick, and at one end of the machine heads for tuning, the other pickups, and then 2 wooden bridges to maintain the balance of the flat wound strings. The bass guitar strings tuned to C sharp, and they're flat wound so that when you attack and apply the glissando, you don't get like a scraping sound, you get a smooth, if percussive, movement upwards.
So this instrument was meant to be played just with the basis of one note, and it could be played with a metal bar, like this, to make. This is just It could also be played with a bow. That has a tray for the bow here, so I can.
I remember using a cylinder like this to do the work.
My role in the project at the Tate is to transmit the music to another person so that anyone can play it.
The way I was doing it was going down and then bringing the slide up to the mark that you have there. But it's basically done by ear, right? We have a drone going on and we're hearing a C-sharp drone, and so it's... I don't know if that's a C-sharp, but...
Maybe not now.
But in the context
Yeah.
of the music, we just tune it with our ear.
The music isn't notated and has to be taught in oral fashion. Tony told me what to play, and then with a bit of a back and forth between the two of us, we arrived at something that we were both happy with.
So that's the kind of the big payoff, maybe in some point in the second half.
Yes, I noticed when you did that yesterday, I considered that, wow, George is innovating. And I quite liked it. And I was not a little jealous, thinking, why didn't I think of that?
It's so interesting talking to people who've performed it before, because so much of what they're talking about is a type of embodied knowledge. And they talk about body memory, they talk about the memory of performing the piece coming back.
I have a document of the first performance and the Lee's performance. Right hand started hurting halfway through. Felt like stopping but didn't want to in case I couldn't pick up the violin. Played like mad, everything hurts, and I shook at the end. So these are kind of physical things. The reality of what 90 minutes does to your body.
I think that's something like that, those kind of approaching it from like a physical point of view. You know, as you watch it, your mind kind of plays tricks on you. So just to have that written down as well, I think is really helpful.
The value of being able to access this group of people has been really extraordinary in terms of that ability to learn from them, to have them really show us and pass on their knowledge of this work and these instruments and what Tony Conrad was trying to convey in this piece.
I think I need like really literal guidance. But then after the big conversation yesterday where we were chatting about everything for so long, I felt like that was really helpful, just sort of like hearing about him as a person, hearing his violin louder, trying to sort of like think about it a bit differently to maybe being so rigid.
I mean, I played it, I realised I hadn't remembered just listening back. I was playing it faster than you.
Right.
So it has a different
feeling. It has a different feel altogether then, doesn't it, I suppose?
But it's a pulse, so it's, I suppose everyone has their like momentum. Yeah.
The real challenge of this work is to kind of understand what needs to stay the same, what's kind of structurally part of the work, and where the variability, where the change can be. And we really don't want this work to live in the museum as a kind of fixed, locked down thing. So how do we allow a work like this to kind of continue to have its life?
Where the artwork begins and ends is one of the great questions that we have to engage with when working in a museum. Is it about props, instruments, apparatuses, or is it about the pure experience? I would say in the case of 10 years on an infinite plane, it is both. What will be continuing the next days and weeks and months perhaps is the beginning of a ripple effect that we hope will be lasting forever and allowing the work to be alive on an infinite plane.